Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today, well, we're really diving deep, embarking on a fascinating journey into the very molecules behind regeneration. Our focus today is GHK-Cu. Now, this is a molecule that's been getting a lot of buzz, a lot of attention in research circles. We're talking tissue repair, skin health, even the bigger picture of anti-aging. And the interesting thing, this isn't some new synthetic compound. It's actually a naturally occurring peptide, one that binds copper, first found in human plasma, believe it or not, way back in the 1970s. His story is really one of natural elegance and pretty profound biological impact. So to guide us through this really intricate and exciting topic, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome a leading voice, a distinguished clinical researcher in regenerative medicine. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.
Oh, it's a genuine pleasure to be here. GHK-Cu is, it's one of those molecules. It seems simple on the surface, but its impact, its biological reach is just incredibly complex and wide-ranging. It really speaks volumes about how sophisticated our body's own healing systems are. And I'm really looking forward to unpacking its story and, its potential with you and your listeners today.
I am definitely looking forward to unpacking this. So, okay, let's start right at the beginning. Just lay the foundation, make sure we're all on the same page. What exactly is GHK-Cu? When we say copper peptide, what are we actually talking about? What makes it tick?
Right. Fundamental question. So, at its absolute core, GHK-Cu is what scientists call a tripeptide. Now, that sounds technical, but it just means it's a very, very small piece of protein, made up of only three specific amino acids: glycine, histidine, and lysine. And those letters, G, H, and K, that's where the first part of the name comes from.
Right, okay, GHK-Cu. Got it.
Exactly. But the really special part, the part that gives it the Q in its name, is its unique ability, and it's a really strong ability to bind tightly to copper ions. Specifically, the Q form, which is the main type of copper floating around in our bodies.
So it grabs onto copper.
It grabs on tight. This binding is incredibly stable, forming what we call the GHK-Q complex. And like you said, this isn't something made in a lab initially. It's naturally found throughout our bodies. It was first pulled right out of human plasma, which really underlines, how biologically relevant it is. It's part of our normal physiology. And the strength of that copper bond is absolutely key. It lets GHK-Cu act like a very specialized, very efficient shuttle service for copper, making sure this vital trace element gets exactly where it needs to go when it needs to go there.
Okay, so it's not just holding copper loosely, it's like a dedicated delivery truck with a really strong grip. And that precision delivery sounds crucial. But how did anyone even find this tiny peptide carrying copper? There has to be a story there, right? How was it discovered?
Oh, absolutely. The discovery story is, well, it's a bit like a scientific detective novel. It really starts back in the early 1970s. There was a researcher, Dr. Lauren Pickart, at the University of California, San Francisco. And Dr. Pickart was wrestling with this really big question. What is it about young blood that makes it seem so, well, vital?
Right, the age-old question.
Exactly. And he did this experiment that was pretty extraordinary at the time. He took components from young human blood plasma and added them to older liver cells that were growing in a lab dish. And what he saw was remarkable. These older cells, they started acting younger, more robust. Their function improved. They started making proteins better. It was like they'd been, well, rejuvenated in a way.
Wow, okay, so adding something from young blood actually made old cells act younger.
That was the pivotal observation, yes. It strongly suggested there had to be something specific, probably small, in that young blood that could influence how cells behave, maybe even reverse some signs of cellular aging. Imagine the excitement, but also the challenge, trying to isolate this mystery rejuvenating factor from, the incredibly complex mixture that is human plasma.
Yeah, like finding a needle in a haystack.
Very complex haystack. It took painstaking work, lots of purification steps, careful analysis, but eventually, through really meticulous biochemistry, Dr. Pickart and his team pinned it down. The active component was this tripeptide, GHK, and then later research confirmed its incredible high-affinity binding to copper ions. That solidified its identity as the GHK-Cu complex we're talking about today. It was a real game changer. It showed our bodies naturally produce this molecule with some really profound regenerative potential.
That is an absolutely incredible origin story. From just an idea about youthful blood to isolating a specific molecule doing this cellular rejuvenation. That's amazing. And you mentioned it's naturally present. Does it stay at the same level throughout our lives? Or does that change as we get older?
That's a really crucial point. And it's central to why GHK-Cu is getting so much attention now in anti-aging research and regenerative medicine. GHK-2 is, yes, it's pretty much everywhere. You find it circulating in blood plasma. It's also embedded in various tissues. But, and this is the key thing, its concentration doesn't stay constant. Not at all. There's a really significant, well-documented drop in its levels as we age.
How significant are we talking?
It's quite dramatic. For example, someone in their early 20s might have GHK-Cu levels around, say, 200 nanograms per milliliter in their blood plasma. But by the time that person reaches age 60, that concentration can plummet, sometimes down to around 80 nanograms per milliliter or even lower.
Wow, that's a huge drop, more than half.
It is. And that drop isn't just a number on a lab report. It represents a real decline in our body's intrinsic repair capacity. Think about it like the number of skilled repair crews in a city dropping by over 60% as the city ages. Things just don't get fixed as quickly or as well.
That makes sense.
So this age-related decline likely contributes to many things we associate with aging. Slower wound healing, skin losing its elasticity, maybe a general reduced capacity for tissues to repair themselves and protect against damage. It really drives home how important GHK-Cu seems to be for maintaining youthful function and, our regenerative potential throughout life.
That stark decline really puts it into perspective.
Mm.
Okay, so it's natural, levels drop with age. But how does the body know when and where to use it? Especially when we're younger and levels are higher. Is there a trigger?
That's another layer of its elegance, really. The GHK peptide sequence isn't just sort of floating around aimlessly waiting for instructions. A lot of it is actually embedded within our collagen matrix. Collagen, that major structural protein in our skin, bones, connective tissues, basically the scaffolding holding us together.
Right, the body's framework.
Exactly. And here's the clever part. When tissue gets injured, a cut, a scrape, a burn, even just tiny bits of damage from daily life enzymes get activated that start breaking down the surrounding extracellular matrix, including that collagen. This process is called proteolysis, and this breakdown releases the GHK peptide from where it was stored within the collagen.
Ah, so the damage itself triggers the release.
Precisely. It acts as an immediate, localized signal, like a flare going up right at the site of injury, calling in the repair crew. It's the body's own ingenious system to make sure this copper-carrying regenerative signal is available exactly when and where it's needed most, like a built-in alarm that activates its own response team. This really reinforces the idea that GHK-Cu isn't just some random molecule, but a natural carrier for copper, deeply integrated into our healing processes. It's waiting right there in our structure, ready to go.
That is incredibly clever. A perfect built-in emergency response. Okay, so that release mechanism, that first responder system is just the start. The real deep dive now, I guess, is understanding how this natural first responder, this, as you called it, construction manager, actually starts coordinating the healing at a microscopic level. What's it doing once it's released?
Right. This is where we get into its multiple biological jobs. And it's truly fascinating. Your construction manager analogy is spot on. Its ability to bind copper is absolutely central because it means it's bringing those essential tools, the copper ions, right to the construction site, the site of repair. And copper isn't just any old mineral. It's an indispensable trace element.
Why is delivering copper specifically so critical? We hear about iron, calcium. Copper feels a bit more specialized. What makes GHK-Cu's delivery special?
It's critical because copper is an essential cofactor for a whole host of vital enzymes. Cofactor basically means these enzymes need copper to function properly, sometimes to function at all.
Yeah.
Now, in our blood, most copper is actually carried by larger proteins like albumin. But GHK-Cu has this unique knack. It can effectively sequester, or maybe steal is a better word, these Q ions, even from those big carriers like albumin. And then it delivers that copper very precisely right where cells need it most. This overcomes the challenge of getting copper efficiently into specific parts of the cell or to local areas in tissues that might be running low because of injury or aging.
So it's like a specialized delivery service compared to the bulk carrier.
That's a great way to put it. Think of albumin as a huge cargo ship carrying lots of general supplies, including copper, across the ocean. But GHK-Cu is like a nimble, fast speedboat. It can grab specific items, the copper, and zip them directly to a small island, say the wound site, where urgent construction is needed. It bypasses the slower, less targeted routes when rapid local delivery is key. That precision is vital.
That visual really helps. Okay, so what are some of these critical tools, the copper-dependent enzymes that GHK-Cu is supplying copper to? What do they actually do for us?
We can highlight a few really key ones that show its importance. First, there's lysyl oxidase. Think of lysyl oxidase as maybe the master weaver that knits together the fabric of our tissues.
Okay.
This enzyme is absolutely crucial for cross-linking collagen and elastin, Those are the main proteins giving strength, structure, and elasticity to our skin and connective tissues. Without enough active lysyl oxidase, the weave isn't strong, you get sagging skin, weak scars, loss of resilience. GHK-Cu ensures this weaver has the copper it needs to keep tissues firm.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, there's cytochrome C oxidase. This one is vital for cellular respiration, making energy. It's involved in producing ATP, the energy currency cells need for everything they do, especially the energy-intensive work of repair and regeneration. GHK-Cu helps keep the cellular power plants running efficiently.
Powering the repair process.
Exactly. Then there's superoxide dismutase, usually called SOD. This is a major player in our antioxidant defense system. SOD is like a highly efficient cleanup crew, neutralizing harmful free radicals, those unstable molecules that damage cells and accelerate aging before they cause too much trouble. By providing copper, GHK-Cu boosts this vital protection.
So defense as well as building.
Absolutely. And one more, ceruloplasmin. This one helps manage iron metabolism, preventing toxic buildup, but it also acts as a powerful antioxidant itself. So GHK-Cu isn't just directly delivering copper, it's optimizing the whole copper environment for health. And because GHK-Cu is so small, it can get into tissues much easier than those big proteins, bind to cell surfaces, and supply copper locally right where it's needed for all these critical jobs.
So it's not just dropping off the copper, it's making sure the right enzymes get it, facilitating complex tasks, maintaining infrastructure. That's incredibly sophisticated. Now, beyond just delivering copper, I've read it also plays a big role in gene regulation. You mentioned a reset button earlier. Is it really like that for our cells?
Yes, that's another incredibly powerful facet of what it does, and the reset button analogy fits really well. Studies using advanced techniques like gene expression profiling have shown that GHK-Cu influences literally thousands of human genes.
Thousands. That's a lot.
It is. Think of it like conducting an orchestra. GHK-Cu isn't just tuning one instrument. It's rewriting whole sections of the musical score, trying to get the entire orchestra playing in harmony for regeneration and health. It's not just tweaking one or two things. It's orchestrating this broad genomic response, helping older, maybe struggling cells remember how to function more efficiently, more youthfully. It really does act like a biological reset.
How does it manage that reset? What kinds of genes is it turning up or down? And does messing with thousands of genes ever cause problems, or is it always balancing things out?
That's a really important question about balance. And GHK-Cu seems to have this dual harmonizing effect. On one side, it significantly upregulates, turns up the volume on genes involved in really critical functions, things like tissue repair itself, all the components needed for rebuilding. It also boosts antioxidant defense genes, strengthening the cell's own protection systems, and it improves the immune response, helping manage injury better. Plus, it supports the maintenance of that extracellular matrix, keeping the tissue scaffolding healthy.
Okay, so boosting the good stuff.
Right. But then, on the other hand, GHK-Cu is also known to suppress or quiet down genes related to inflammation and stress, pro-inflammatory genes, stress response genes. This is vital because chronic inflammation and ongoing cellular stress are huge drivers of aging and disease. By calming these negative signals, GHK-Cu creates a better, more harmonious environment for healing and regeneration.
But it turns down the noise, too.
Exactly. Its action seems inherently balancing. It shifts the cell's priorities towards construction and maintenance, while minimizing disruptive, damaging processes. We haven't really seen evidence of it causing, say, uncontrolled overactivation like some drugs might. It seems more about restoring a natural, healthy balance.
That's a truly comprehensive cellular overhaul, directing traffic at the gene level, calming inflammation, ramping up repair. You also mentioned its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory actions directly. Are those separate from the gene stuff or all tied together?
They're definitely interconnected, but GHK-Cu also has its own intrinsic antioxidant and anti-inflammatory abilities. It doesn't just rely on telling genes what to do.
How did that work?
Well, beyond just telling genes to make more antioxidant enzymes, GHK-Cu itself can directly neutralize some nasty byproducts, like those generated during lipid peroxidation. Think of your cell membranes. They're mostly fats. Lipid peroxidation is like those fats going rancid due to oxidative stress, damaging the cell's structure and even its DNA.
Like rust on metal.
Kind of, yeah. And it also produces toxic aldehydes. Think of those as harmful fumes from the rusting process that spread damage. GHK-Cu can actually bind to and inactivate these aldehydes, stopping the damage from propagating. It directly steps in to quench the fire.
So it's actively cleaning up the mess.
It is. There was a good example with skin cells, keratinocytes, in culture. GHK-Cu protected them from lethal damage caused by UVB radiation, specifically by neutralizing the free radicals generated by the UV light. And on the inflammation side, studies show it reduces the production of inflammatory signaling molecules, cytokines. It also dampens a key inflammatory pathway called NF-Q. NF-Q is like the master switch that turns on a lot of inflammation alarms in the body. By calming this down, GHK-Q doesn't just reduce inflammation, it helps keep it from spiraling out of control, creating a much better environment for healing.
That's powerful. It's not just making cells tougher, it's actively fighting the damaging processes. Okay, so it cleans up, sets the stage, which brings us to the actual rebuilding. Extracellular matrix remodeling, you called it. How does GHK-Q help literally rebuild and strengthen tissues?
Right. This is where we see its direct impact on the physical stuff, especially in the skin. GHK-Q is a potent stimulator of skin cells, particularly fibroblasts, which are the main cells that build connective tissue. It encourages them to produce more of the vital structural components. We're talking collagen type I and type 3, crucial for skin strength and firmness. Also, elastin, which gives skin its bounce-back quality.
The stuff that keeps skin looking youthful.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. It also boosts the production of things called glycosaminoglycans, JAGs, and proteoglycans. These are like the skin's natural moisturizers and fillers, helping retain water, keeping tissue hydrated, plump, and volumized.
So it's stimulating production of all the key building blocks.
Yes, but it's smarter than just hitting the on switch. GHK-Q also helps regulate the enzymes that remodel the matrix. There's a constant process of breaking down old or damaged components and replacing them with new ones. GHK-Q helps ensure this is balanced. You don't want too much breakdown, but you also don't want uncontrolled buildup, which can lead to scarring or fibrosis, stiff, dysfunctional tissue. It promotes that healthy turnover.
A balancing act.
A crucial balancing act. And we have some solid numbers here. In lab studies with fibroblasts, GHK-Q was shown to increase collagen synthesis by an impressive 70%.
70%? Wow, that is a huge increase.
It's really significant. It shows it's not just minor tweaking, it's driving a major boost in producing this key structural protein. So it's orchestrating this comprehensive rebuild, bringing in materials, clearing out old stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. It's really managing the whole construction project.
Absolutely. And one more piece to this rebuilding puzzle, GHK-Q also acts like a homing beacon. It attracts other important cells to the injury site. Immune cells arrive to clean up debris and manage infection risk, and endothelial cells, which are the cells that form blood vessels, are also drawn in.
Why are blood vessels important here?
This leads to angiogenesis, the growth of new blood vessels. GHK-Q promotes this by increasing vascular growth factors. More blood vessels mean a better supply of oxygen and nutrients to the healing tissue. That's absolutely fundamental for effective repair and keeping the tissue healthy long term. So it really is the full package. Attracting workers, providing tools and materials, managing the cleanup, and ensuring good supply lines.
So it's delivering the building blocks, managing the genetic instructions, calming inflammation, rebuilding the structure, and improving the supply lines. There's one powerful combination, which naturally leads to the question, how does all this amazing cellular activity translate into the real world? Where are we actually seeing these effects most clearly outside of the lab dish?
Right, the practical application. We really see these impacts showing up most clearly in two main areas. First, as you might expect from all the collagen talk, in cosmetic and anti-aging applications, particularly for the skin. And second, perhaps more profoundly, in tissue healing and regeneration. This includes wound care, but potentially also repair of more complex internal tissues.
Okay, let's start with cosmetics and anti-aging. That's probably where most people have encountered GHK-Cu, maybe in serums or creams. What's happening there? What are people actually seeing?
Exactly. Given everything we've discussed, the collagen boost, the antioxidant effects, the anti-inflammatory action, it made perfect sense to explore it for skincare. So, yes, GHK-Q has been widely incorporated into topical products, creams, serums, gels. The idea is to deliver it directly to the skin to leverage those regenerative properties, and the results reported have been quite compelling.
What kind of results are we talking about?
Well, users and studies report several key effects. Things like a noticeable increase in skin firmness and elasticity, that youthful bounce and resistance to sagging. Also, a reduction in the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. And it seems to help with diminishing photo damage, like age spots, the kind of things that result from sun exposure over time.
So tackling multiple signs of aging.
Yes, and beyond the surface, people report increased skin thickness and density, which suggests a healthier underlying dermal structure. Plus, improved hydration and a stronger skin barrier function. This means skin holds moisture better and is more resilient against environmental stress. And interestingly, it's not just skin. Some evidence suggests it can stimulate hair growth and increase the size of hair follicles too, so its regenerative potential might be quite broad, even just topically.
Those are definitely the kinds of results people look for in skincare. But are these effects just, what people say they see, or is there solid clinical evidence behind these cosmetic claims?
That's the crucial question. And fortunately, yes, there are documented clinical trials. These studies try to measure the changes objectively. For example, there was a 12-week study where women used a facial cream containing GHK-Cu. They saw measurable improvements, increased dermal density and thickness, reduced skin laxity or sagging, and fewer visible wrinkles compared to baseline or a placebo.
Okay, measurable changes.
Another study focused specifically on the eye area, notoriously tricky. An eye cream with GHK-Cu significantly reduced the appearance of crow's feet and improved the overall look of the skin there.
That's impressive for the eye area.
And perhaps one of the most cited studies actually compared a GHK-Cu cream head-to-head with other well-known anti-aging ingredients, vitamin C and retinoic acid. In that particular study, the GHK-Cu cream came out on top in terms of stimulating collagen production. It showed an increase in collagen synthesis in 70% of the participants, which outperformed both vitamin C and retinoic acid in that specific measure.
Wow, outperforming vitamin C and retin A and boosting collagen. That's quite a statement.
In that particular metric in that study, yes, it really highlights its potency in a clinical setting, even against established ingredients. It suggests it's not just hype, there's real biological activity happening.
Okay, that's pretty convincing for the cosmetic side. But you also mentioned more profound effects on tissue healing and regeneration beyond just looking younger. How does that cellular construction manager role play out in, say, wound healing?
This is where GHK-Cu's abilities become potentially very important in a more medical context. Numerous studies, mostly preclinical but some human, have shown it can significantly accelerate wound closure. And not just faster healing on the surface, but better quality healing underneath. We see improved contraction of the wound edges pulling together, enhanced formation of granulation tissue, that's the new healthy tissue that fills the wound gap, rich in new blood vessels. And speaking of blood vessels, robust angiogenesis or new vessel growth to supply the healing area.
So a more thorough healing process.
Exactly. Wounds treated with GHK tend to have higher levels of antioxidants. They show faster reepithelialization, that's the new skin cells migrating across the surface. And they accumulate more collagen, leading to a stronger, potentially less problematic scar.
How does it achieve that improved healing?
It really goes back to orchestrating all those cellular players we discussed. It stimulates the fibroblasts, the key building cells to multiply, move into the wound, and secrete growth factors that signal more repair. It acts as that beacon, drawing in immune cells to clean things up properly and endothelial cells to build those crucial new blood vessels. And critically, it helps dial down excessive inflammation by reducing those inflammatory cytokines. Chronic inflammation is a major reason why some wounds heal poorly or become chronic themselves. GHK-Cu helps create a calmer, more pro-healing environment. It's a really comprehensive approach to wound repair.
That sounds incredibly versatile. Are these healing effects just for skin wounds, or does the potential go deeper into other tissues?
Skin healing is where a lot of the research is focused naturally, because it's easy to observe and measure. But the potential is definitely broader, although much of this is still in earlier stages, often animal models. For instance, studies have shown positive effects on healing injuries to the lining of the gastrointestinal tract. That's a really challenging area because of the harsh gut environment. GHK-Cu's ability to reduce inflammation and promote cell growth there is quite significant.
Interesting. What else?
It's also shown promise in aiding bone fracture healing. It seems to stimulate the osteoblasts, the cells responsible for building new bone, and improve the overall bone remodeling process. And perhaps one of the most exciting, though still early areas, is nerve regeneration.
Nerve regeneration. That's notoriously difficult.
Extremely difficult. Nerves heal very slowly, often incompletely. But some animal studies suggest GHK-Cu might help guide nerve growth across gaps and improve functional recovery after nerve injury. If that translates to humans, the implications for things like spinal cord injury or peripheral nerve damage could be huge.
That would be incredible.
And it doesn't stop there. It also seems to influence scarring and fibrosis, the formation of excessive stiff scar tissue, which can impair organ function after injury or in chronic disease. It's been shown to, for example, restore some vitality to fibroblasts that were damaged by radiation, which can cause chronic wounds and tissue stiffness. It might even help normalize gene expression patterns in some chronic conditions, suggesting it's not just about the initial fix, but about restoring tissue to a healthier long-term state.
It really does seem like a master regulator of healing and regeneration across the board, from skin appearance to wound closure, bone, maybe even nerves. That's an impressive range. Which brings us back to that critical question. If it's this active, this effective in studies, why isn't GHK-Cu a standard prescribed medical treatment right now? Why isn't it in every first aid kit or used routinely after surgery? What are the limitations?
That's the absolutely essential reality check, isn't it? Given all this exciting research, it's natural to wonder why it's not more widespread clinically. And the answer lies in the crucial difference between promising research findings and approved medical therapies.
Right. It sounds like a major control switch needs flipping, but hasn't been yet. So what are the limitations? We're clearly not talking about a miracle cure ready for prime time, are we?
No, absolutely not a miracle cure, and managing expectations is key. Let's break it down. First, let's touch on safety, because that's always the first hurdle. The good news is, especially for topical use in cosmetics, GHK-Cu has a very good safety profile. It's generally well tolerated.
Why is it considered so safe?
Well, largely because GHK itself is something our bodies make naturally. It's a normal part of our plasma. Our immune system recognizes it. And copper, of course, is an essential nutrient. It's not inherently toxic when present in the right amounts and forms. Reflecting this, serious adverse effects haven't really been reported in the cosmetic trials. That's encouraging for its use in skincare.
Okay, reassuring for cosmetic use. But what about those bigger medical applications? Healing internal injuries, nerves, etc. What's the status there? And what are the big research gaps?
This is where we need to draw a very clear line. While GHK-Cu is incredibly promising and widely studied for skin and tissue health, it remains firmly in the research domain for medical applications. It is not currently approved as a medical therapy or drug by major regulatory bodies like the FDA in the US or the EMA in Europe for treating specific diseases or conditions. The bar for drug approval is vastly higher than for a cosmetic ingredient.
So the strong evidence is mostly preclinical.
A large portion of the really compelling evidence, the deep dives into gene regulation, the dramatic healing in various animal tissues comes from lab studies, in vitro, or animal models, in vivo, plus those smaller human cosmetic trials we discussed. These studies are crucial. They prove the concept, they show us the mechanisms, they reveal the potential, but they are not the same as large-scale, randomized, controlled clinical trials involving thousands of diverse human patients for specific medical uses. Those are the gold standard needed for drug approval.
So tons of potential shown in the lab in early studies, but the definitive large-scale human data for widespread medical use, especially internally, just isn't there yet. What makes bridging that gap so challenging?
Precisely. And bridging that gap takes enormous investment time, money, resources. We absolutely need more large-scale, high-quality clinical trials to move GHK-Cu from promising molecule to approved medicine. These trials are needed to definitively prove it works consistently in diverse groups of people for specific conditions, to figure out the best doses, the best ways to deliver it, especially internally, how often to use it, and crucially to understand its long-term effects and identify any rare side effects that might only show up in very large populations studied over long periods.
So questions about delivery, long-term safety, effectiveness across different people.
Exactly. For internal uses, things like bioavailability, how much actually gets absorbed and used by the body, and systemic safety need much more thorough investigation in humans. We need to take the potential seen in chronic wound models or internal organ repair or nerve regeneration in animals and test it with the same scientific rigor in human patients. But, this whole process, this journey, isn't really a drawback. It's just how science works. It highlights the exciting potential, but also the careful, methodical validation that's required before any exciting discovery can become a safe and effective treatment for everyone. It's the frontier of ongoing research.
This has been an incredibly illuminating deep dive. Really, you've expertly navigated us through how GHK works, its amazing history, its potential, while also giving us that crucial, realistic perspective on where things stand now and the research still needed. Thank you so much for sharing all your expertise today.
Oh, it was genuinely my pleasure. I hope it shed some light on this really fascinating molecule for you and for everyone listening. If I had to boil it all down to one sentence, I'd say GHK-Cu is a natural copper peptide that really acts like a biological reset button. It supports repair, regeneration, and helps skin look healthier, essentially reminding our body how to heal itself.
I like that, a natural reset button, reminding the body how to heal. That really captures its essence. So, for all of you listening, The main takeaway here is clear. GHK-Cu is a truly fascinating, naturally occurring molecule. It holds immense promise for skin health and potentially much broader tissue regeneration. It acts like that cellular reset button, that construction manager, orchestrating this complex dance of repair. But, as we heard, it's still very much an active area of research. A lot of the groundbreaking work is still preclinical or in the cosmetic sphere, hopefully paving the way for future medical uses down the line. It really does make you wonder, doesn't it? If our bodies already have these incredibly sophisticated mechanisms for repair, these ancient biological signals like GHK-Cu, what more could we unlock just by learning to listen to them better? What new ways to support natural healing and longevity might be waiting to be discovered? And, as always, just a necessary reminder for everyone, the mentioned products and peptides are not intended to refer to any peptides or products sold by Power Peptides. Products sold are strictly for research purposes only and are not intended for human consumption. Thank you again for a truly brilliant and insightful conversation.
Thank you for having me.
And to all of you listening, if you enjoyed today's deep dive, please do subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations into the science that's shaping our understanding of health and biology. Until next time, take care.